Welcome, Visionaries. This is your host, the INFJ Visionary. We're going to get started today talking about subtypes. I've touched on this before, and it's probably a good place to reiterate that I am not an expert on Jungian archetypes, the structure of the Myers-Briggs system, all the different cognitive types for all the different types. I basically found out that I was an INFJ maybe, 15, 20 years ago, and I found it helpful. And of course, you end up finding out which types the people around you are that you vibe with, and that's helpful. And then there's everyone else, many of which, of course, you're interacting with them. You could maybe guess their type. And with C.S. Joseph, I think he'll sell you a program so that you can run around typing people. But I don't like to be that overt. If I end up liking someone and vibing with them, I'll ask them, what do you know what your type is? And if I really like them and vibe with them and they don't know, I might have them do the test or whatever, and then see how that falls against my perceptions. But anyway, this leads us to subtypes, because I think subtypes is a giant waste of time. That said, of course there are INFJ subtypes. Let's see, how many INFJs are there? It's 2% of... they're telling us it's 7 billion people on the planet. So whatever 2% of 7 billion people is, that's how many INFJ subtypes there are. Is that helpful? No. No, it's not. It's not helpful. It's not helpful to take something that is helpful, which is basically a metric by which you can understand your preferences for parsing reality. It's that simple. Number one is your introverted intuition. That's the water you're swimming in. That's going to be the thing that's brought to bear first and foremost. Number two, the extroverted feeling, which ameliorates and softens that introverted intuition so we can slot in with the world. And after that, we have the introverted thinking, which verifies the intuitions to see if they're logical and accurate. And then third, behind, lagging way behind, is the extroverted sensing, which predominantly feeds information to the introverted intuition, and we receive most of our information from that. We can use extroverted sensing, and we can notice things, but it's not our strong suit, especially when you contrast us with somebody that does that by default, Anyway, when you start breaking things into subtypes, it's not useful. Don't worry about your subtype. And this is like, as much as I'm a big fan of old Ren there, I bailed on his channel when he was doing his deep dive into subtypes, because I think it's not helpful. What is helpful is to know what your preferences are, why they are, and who's complementary to a large degree. Not that that should preclude you from being in a friendship or relationship with some other type that might not be on the list, because there's a lot of ways to make things work. The other thing, and maybe I would touch on this here as well, as the Enneagram. The Enneagram is a joke, okay? I have no idea what my Enneagram type is. I have taken the test several times. People I respect are talking about what Enneagram type they are, with what sort of wing. And let me tell you something. Unlike Carl Jung's system, which is based on, yes, it is intuitive, but it's still, he uses a scientific approach to codify the archetypes in a way that is useful. There is aspects of his over that are not that useful, and some that are. And this is very useful. It's proven to be very useful to me through personal experience. The Enneagram, no. It's a bunch of gobbledygook. I don't care what Enneagram type I don't actually care what Jungian archetype most people are, unless I've got a reason to, I care that I'm an INFJ because my struggle is the INFJ struggle. And it's valuable for me to find ways to improve my life, suffer less, and also to vibe more with other people, And all of that's good to know. If you know what your preferences are, you know where you're weak, you know the things you can bring up. But that also leads to another point I wanted to touch on. It's always in the background, okay? This whole self-improvement buzz, like, oh, I'm going to develop my extroverted sensing, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, all right, whatever. You're going to work out? You're going to go for a walk in the woods? Good, do that. But don't think you're going to take something that's kind of a vestigial feature of your persona and build it up to anything that's going to be even remotely close to equal to somebody who has that as a primary function. It's a waste of time. I'm not saying that it is. I'm not saying that you shouldn't work on these functions. More like, okay, a scenario like this. Say there's a party and you should go, but you don't want to go. Okay, well, this might be a place for you to actually go. It might be a place for you to get out of your comfort zone and get out in the world and experience some things, have some conversations with people. You never know, you might meet the love of your life there. You don't know. So yes, in that sense, you should, I guess, maybe the reason you're going to the party is because you want to develop your extroverted sensing. You know what's interesting is that no one talks about developing their third function, and I've noticed that I barely ever bring it up on this channel, which is the introverted thinking, right? Which is our checker, and I think they call it in us. I think it's a child function. Sorry, I don't know. But I know it's not as strong as the extroverted feeling function, although it can definitely assert itself. If something hits us as being wrong or stupid or illogical, people better watch out unless we're being on our good behavior, unless we're just keeping our opinions to ourselves, because that's what we're going to have to do. If somebody hits us with something we think is completely illogical and stupid. And the power of the INFJ, the reason why we are able to cut through much of the dross that most of the, well, I don't want to say most, that some of our fellows become, very subsumed in, buried in. The reason for that is because we have the ability to intuit things that are not necessarily obvious, make connections that aren't really clear, and we have the ability to verify those through logic. So we're not these emotional creatures that just do things because they feel a certain way. That's not the way we operate. And some people seem to think we are, and I don't think I'm an emotional person at all. I do feel things deeply, but I don't really spend a lot of time worrying about how I'm feeling. I don't spend a lot of time, unless I'm feeling bad, I'm just getting on with it. I'm getting on with what I'm doing. So to bring that around the subtypes, yeah, you know me. I looked at did the old thing because, I don't, we're just talking here. We're just building up a body of work in the process of just communicating what it is to be my particular subtype of INFJ, and I could get my calculator out. I'm not that great with math though, and I've got these kind of dragon. I've only got 3 fingers, so it's pretty hard for me to use some of the keys on the keyboard sometimes. But I could do that math at some point. Anyway, you could do the math if you want. 2% of 7 billion. It's millions and millions of INFJs. That's how many subtypes we got, okay? So don't worry about your subtype. Don't worry about whether you're a sigma. You might be, you could be. That could be actually more, that's at least got some foundation in, again, a scientific observation of the social sexual hierarchy, okay? So that's got something going for it. The Enneagram, yeah, same difference. Don't worry about your Enneagram type. You're an INFJ, just worry about that. Do your best to get through reality. Do your best to address the weaker parts of your character. Put the emphasis on the good stuff. And keep on keeping on, INFJ.